the election, Miss Ann Coulter is back with a new book called Mugged, where she claims that President Obama has abandoned black Americans and that the O.J. Simpson verdict was a great thing for America. Please welcome the very controversial Miss Ann Coulter. Ann. Okay, I need you to tell me what you're trying to say in this book. Because we don't know what you're trying to say.
What I'm trying to say is race-mongering has been very bad for America. Liberals use it to promote causes that have nothing to do with blacks and, in fact, harm blacks. And that excellent lead-in you just gave about O.J., I mean, I think that was the moment, having lived near New York City in the 70s and 80s, which was the golden era. It was like Trayvon Martin and the Duke lacrosse case every day. With the O.J. verdict, white America said, that's it, the white guilt bank is shut down, and that ended up being the best thing that ever happened to black Americans.
What are you talking about?
I meant that no longer...
Being acquitted was good for whom?
Yes, because you had millions of white people watching with the equivalent of what in New York we used to refer to as the Brooklyn juries, who simply would not convict even guilty black criminals, not innocent black criminals.
Hold up, Ms. Coulter. Please stop. Please stop. If you're going to talk about race, at least know what you're talking about. At least know what you're talking about. Well, tell me how much you know about being black.
Well, this isn't about being black.
Well, but you just said, you just made all these statements about how black people feel. Tell me how you know that. Yeah, you did. What are you talking about? We weren't allowed to vote.
Who was trying to get them to vote? Republicans were.
Yeah,
and the first black congressmen were all Republicans. And the first black governor was a Republican.
You're talking about way back after...
is so different from
No. That is definitely what we're told. But in fact, the Democratic segregationists were all liberal Democrats. It is a lie that they were conservative Democrats.
Everybody was a segregationist, darling. And you know,
the
basically,
Republicans weren't.
Everybody was. White people were. It didn't matter whether they were Republicans or not.
Ask you a question. The first integration.
You don't look shrewish. I think you were about getting stuff done.
I was about, you know what, now, let me finish it. Now you're winning the PR wars because of this story about the babysitter.
I'm not really out to win.
Also coming on the show and being
awards.
sweet.
I see what you're saying. I'm not out to win any awards. I'm out to be the best mother that I can possibly.
I'm going to quote you. He grew up and nobody knew him. Nobody knows who he is until later in his life. The whole thing is very strange. What are you driving at there? Are you a Bertha, Donald?
Okay. Let me just tell you. I was a really good student at the best school. I'm not like a smart guy, okay? They make these birthers into the worst idiots. Why doesn't he show his birth certificate? I think he probably...
have to?
Because I have to, and everybody else has to, Whoopi.
I'm sure
why
that you
wouldn't
can't
he show...
Excuse
me. Why? No, excuse me. I really believe there's a birth certificate. Why... Look, she's smiling. Why doesn't he show his birth certificate? And you know what? I wish he would. Because I think it's a terrible pall that's hanging over him. He should show his birth certificate. The other thing, if you go back to my first grade, my kindergarten, people remember me. Nobody from those early years.
That's not true. We have pictures of them. What are you talking
about?
about?
Okay, show me a picture.
There are kids in Hawaii. There are people in Hawaii. There are people that he's grown up. No, as little kids.
I haven't seen early pictures. But more importantly, why doesn't he... And you know what? I think he probably was, but the word probably would be...
Why did he have to defend himself against
you know why?
Against an accusation?
Because if you're going to be the president... Because if you're going to be the president of the United States, it says very profoundly that you have to be born in this country.
But did any other president do that? Did George Bush not be the president?
The question is, why would he want this
You know what I said? Probably he was.
No one has ever asked George Bush or said to George Bush, I'm sorry, is Hawaii not part of the United States?
George Bush. And I'm not saying I was a fan of George Bush.
No.
You know that better than anybody. But George Bush was born in this country. That's right.
Isn't Hawaii still part of the United States? Am I blind?
You know what? Whether he was or not because he hasn't come forward with it.
I grew up in New York. Wall Street was a big part. I have seen fraud, and I have seen scandal, and I have seen things that a lot of people don't see. I've seen people take $100 bill and make it $1 million bill.
We're going to have to pause. Get to the point.
Okay, the point is, I can't rely on some newspaper that they show
In
that.
order to become president of the United States, in order to
I
get
want
a
him to
driver's
show his
license,
birth
in order to-
certificate. I want him to show his birth certificate. There's something on that birth certificate that he doesn't like.
Oh my
Oh,
God.
that's a terrible
That
thing
is
to
just
say.
the
Whoopi, I'm
worst
telling
thing
you.
was
He
3 pounds.
Donnie, I love you. I'm telling
I love
you.
you too. I think that's the biggest pile of dog mess I've heard in ages.
The question is, why not show it, right? There's something on his birth certificate he doesn't want to show.
It's not because
What
he's
is
black.
Let
that?
him
Time you were
show
born,
has
what color
nothing to
you
do with it.
are.
By the way,
How
has
I've never heard
nothing
any
to do
white
with it.
president asked to be shown the birth certificate.
Everybody does.
When you become a president of the United States of America,
Okay, listen.
you know that he's
Let him
American.
show
I'm
his
sorry,
birth
that's
certificate.
BS.
Are you saying that it just only
Guys,
lets people have doubt
do you
and
want to talk
it
at all
shouldn't be
about The
there?
Apprentice?
Doesn't matter. It's doing great.
Good,
The
then we
ratings are
won't do
through
it.
the roof. This is going.
You weren't being rude to Bill. You were just trying to get away from the
I wasn't being
infestation.
rude to anybody. I
I
just.
think you were. I think you were being rude to Bill. I really do.
Do you think that Whoopi was rude to Bill?
Here's
You are, Bill.
You called him Papa Bear. Why?
Because like a bear, he's huge and could tear your head off.
Honestly, your honest opinion about what went
Well, because I'm
down
on your
that
show, I agree with Whoopi. I think there should be mosques everywhere. I think this would make a good mosque. The studio would make a lovely mosque. We're facing
if
east,
he
aren't
had
we?
if he had even made that much sense, I would have probably been able
Well,
to
you
handle
understand,
him.
Bill's talking about emotion. Bill was not talking about what the facts were. Bill was talking about what felt right.
Right.
And it
So-
feels wrong. That's what
so isn't
rally's
it
about.
right for
It
me-
feels wrong.
But isn't it
feels
right
wrong.
for me to,
I'm gonna
to
walk
get
off.
up?
I am leaving right now. Forget it.
Every book that you write is very controversial and shocking, and it's usually an opinion that's disparate with everybody else's.
Right.
Do you just write these books and try to find whatever it is that's going to make everybody say,
You are a white lady telling me what is racist to you, which is fine.
What homophobia and hatred looks
it's
like.
not the same.
I have a black kid I raised, Whoopi. I have a kid in my house.
That is not the
You don't have to
same
be
thing.
black to know what racism
Yes,
is.
you do.
No, you don't.
Yes, you do,
No,
baby.
you do not.
Yes, you do. Let me
I think
Okay.
that there's so many white folks out there who've been protesting, who understand, who see and understand.
Which is why I say it's not racist, because America is not just a racist country. Because there are white people who get it. There are white people who look up and say,
That is
honey,
true.
this I know.
Yeah,
But that is
true,
why
and there's ones that
I
do
will not accept the
blanket statement. Yes,
statement
I
that
agree with
America's
Nicole on
racist.
that
I don't
one.
agree. I'm sorry.
Our ancestors, the ones who weren't afraid of snakes, did not reproduce. What? No, if they weren't afraid of snakes, if you weren't afraid of snakes, the snake would bite you, you would die, and then you wouldn't have a chance to have children.
that's why you're not unfascinating people, because you make no sense.
Me in the end to appear on his custody day, but I was really hoping that for the sake of the kids, he would see that I'm saying, look, I'm available and I'm free and I'm their mom. I mean,
Please, I showed up at my husband's house all the time going, who is watching my son?
Wouldn't you rather be there, with your kids instead of...
But there's wait. I'm sorry. I understand that. But when you go into a custody thing with someone, you have your specific time and their specific time, and you're not supposed to walk. And I'm sorry, that's the law.
I know that's what the law says.
And you could have gone to
Your heart
jail.
says something different.
But when you know somebody else
You
is
could
watching
have
your
gone
child
to
that you
jail.
don't
Do you
know.
realize that?
I've learned my lesson, and I learned that it was not a good thing, and I just do need to say that in all of this heat, the kids were not present, and I actually showed up and cried. I didn't even say a word. I sat at the gate and just sobbed, and I realized that I was wrong, and it was his custody.
You want to bet on that? You want to bet? I'll show you that poll in a minute.
All I'm saying is Americans don't want it. But why is that? But why aren't we saying...
It's inappropriate.
Why is it inappropriate when 70 families died? What are you
killed
talking
us on 9/11.
Oh, my God. That is...
Muslims didn't kill us on 9/11? Is that what you're saying?
Excuse me, extremists
What
did
religion
that.
were they in?
What religion was
what they are.
Mr. McVeigh? Mr. McVeigh was an extremist
I'm
as well,
telling
and
you,
he killed people.
70% of the country.
I don't want to sit here. I don't want to sit here.
You're outraged it's about Muslims dealing with the 9/11.
What made you go over there?
Because I went over there and it was wrong of...
I'm not going to comment. Whereupon everybody in the country goes, what?
Well, wait a minute. Let me ask you this.
Let
me ask you this. So you're saying that Americans are not smart enough to recognize that while it is part of our Constitution to say the freedom of religion and freedom to worship, and there were 70 families who are Muslim who also died in that building. So you're saying that that his saying that they have the right to do it and not saying any more than that is why his approval rating has gone down?
I'm showing that there is a gulf between Americans wanted to know what his opinion was on the issue, and he wouldn't give it.
We're Americans.
That's
too.
one
we agree
thing.
with him.
But, you know,
so what about
You agree with it.
No,
Most
we're Americans. I'm an American.
Let me break this to you. 70% of Americans don't want that mosque down there. So don't give me the
Where's that poll?
You said nothing, and that's
No.
cowardly.
Nothing. That is not. Do not call me a coward because number one, I sit here every single day, open my heart, and tell people exactly what I believe.
All right, let me give you an example. The mosque down here on 9/11. That's inappropriate. It's sure they have a right to do it, and the Constitution, but it's inappropriate because a lot of the 9/11 families, who I know, say, look, we don't want that. That shouldn't be there.
But what about the discussion?
No. But there's the president. There's the president going, well, they have a right to do it. Yes. And then the guy says, and then
This is
hold
America.
hold it. Listen to me because you'll learn. All right. Thank you. So he says to the press, yeah, they have a right to do it, and that's true. Yeah. And then the question is, but what about the wisdom of it, Mr. President? And he goes,
Will I do it again? No, but it doesn't answer to me like a babysitter I've never met or approved
But
of.
you
It
said
bothers me.
he's had this babysitter once before. So
Yeah, in
did
the
you
hot
tell
tub.
did you tell the you know,
But also,
this is why. But you know what? You don't know what John likes and what he doesn't
I don't
like.
know what
and
John
I'm
likes, but I'm going,
And I'm saying that his attitude could be the same on something that you feel is perfectly normal.
And I think that's
and
one
when
of the
he comes
hardest
to
things,
you,
Whoopi. I think one of the hardest things is deciding what my motherly heart is saying, but seeing us now as two different entities that what I am doing, he can give right back.
You know, you have just seen what should not happen. We should be able to have discussions without washing our hands and screaming and walking off stage. I love my colleagues. It should not have happened. Now, let me just say to you in a calmer